You are now tuned into the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
And as always, thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 400 of the podcast. Big milestone for the podcast. First, actually, this episode, we're talking about the Baltimore Ravens matchup against the Washington Commanders. Before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. Yes, we have reached the 400 episode of the podcast. It's been an interesting journey. We're at currently 418 subscribers. The goal is to get to 1,000. I'm proud of what I've done so far in this short term. All this started during the pandemic. It just started with a laptop and a webcam. And there's some other content that I've made in the past that's private, but I'm really proud of just to see where this has gone, and I appreciate all the support I've gotten, especially to my producers. Big help, and appreciate what you guys do behind the scenes. It's definitely not gone unnoticed. So I'm really proud of us. This is for us, and I'll see you in episode 800. So we're talking about week 6 of the NFL season with the Washington Commanders versus the Baltimore Ravens, the battle of I-95, DMV matchup, and just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Just want to clear out what DMV stands for, because some people kind of have their interpretation that there's certain parts of Maryland that doesn't qualify as DMV, but it's all love. But ladies and gentlemen, the final score of the Baltimore Ravens versus the Washington Commanders, 30-21. Game over, yeah! I'm not done.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
First and foremost, as you see the title of the video, I think this, first and foremost, this game, to me, I wouldn't say there was pressure, but when you hear some of this stuff on national TV, when you hear along the lines of, if Jaden Daniels outplays or they beat the Washington Commanders, he's an MVP conversation. And I find it weird. Well, some have done this, not all. There are some that have given Lamar his credits for MVP. But when I watch this game, I'll get more into that later. It's interesting to know, especially that Monday on national TV. I mean, I saw a couple shows. I didn't watch all of them. They weren't talked about. You know what was talked about? the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones' meltdown, which we'll actually get into in one final thought. But the first thing I really think for the Ravens, I'll start with the Ravens on this one. Their offense is starting to come together. I still have some questions. On the positive side, I liked what I saw. This offense, you've seen progressions, whether that's through the offensive line. You see their confidence and difficult to break down pass protection. They've gotten better. They're the number one rushing offense in the league. You know, to see, for example, how Washington stacked the box and Lamar, and I'm a reference again. He found an open receiver. He found Zay Flowers and Rashard Bateman, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. Even, you know, watching this team, I'm going to reference when we played the Miami Dolphins a couple years ago, and we couldn't get it going. All Miami did was stack the box, and everybody was like, that's all you got to do to beat the Ravens, stack the box and blitz. Well, with Washington, I didn't see that. Now, personally, Washington was not built with, I just don't think had the necessary weapons to contain Lamar and Derrick Henry and contain the passing offense. Like, for, you know, and then also too, you know, I actually, let me take this real quick. When you look at how they stretch the defense, you can now pick your poison with, okay, I'm going to mix a little bit of the run. I'm going to mix a little bit of the pass. If I do those little things, I can beat a team. If you watched, that's all Baltimore did. I mean, Lamar, he surpassed Cam Newton to number 2. He needs another 449 yards to surpass Michael Vick. 2 scoring drives, 90-plus yards. I mean, that 9-play, 93-yard drive in the second quarter and the 8-yard play, 94 drive in the third. 484 yards of offense. I just think that you're seeing an offense that's coming together. There's also one person we really have not talked about, and I think he's a difference maker, especially with the I formation cheese, is Patrick Ricard. He and Derrick Henry, this is Derrick Henry's third 100 game in the last 4 weeks. Now, we all know, you know, for me, it's there are times when we lean on him. I'm a little concerned as the season progresses. I don't want us to lean on him too much, you know. But especially when you're when you got an All-Pro fullback, Patrick Ricard. I mean, he ran the ball. Derek ran the ball 15 times, 94 yards, and after halftime. I mean, it's just, I really think everything is peaking at the right time. But especially in the fourth quarter, Washington was down 7. What did Derek do? Those first 2 plays, he moved the chains. They stacked the box. That's where you saw Todd Monken go in his playbook and mix it up. And it executed plays. There was Rashard Bateman on 2 catches, 17 and 18 yards reception on those games. And that's when it was 30-20. But for me, I think the one thing that I'm really proud about is looking at how we looked defensively and I mean offensively, and the concerns were, well, he's washed up. You know, how is he going to look? And I still have questions come postseason with this team, but he's 30, Derrick Henry, and I have to thank the Dallas Cowboys for not signing him, because he's definitely, I think he's making everything life easy for everybody. And especially you put him on the field late in the game with the lead. Not only do you have to worry about him, you have to worry about Zay Flowers, who Washington had a hard time containing. Mark Andrews, Rashard Bateman, Isaiah Likely. You have to figure out defensively to pick your poison on what you're going to take away from the Ravens to make them one-dimensional. Mark Andrews is my next person I want to talk about. Positives. Listen, we have to give Mark Andrews a lot of props for especially the hip drop tackle injury he suffered last year. Then, a training camp, was damn near were disrupted by a car accident on the way to the facility, where thank God he was not injured. First 5 weeks of the season, well, what's going on, Mark? What's going on with Mark Andrews? Is he washed? People talk about, he's in the last year of his contract, and are we past the torch? And I looked at those, and I used weeks 3 and 4. He didn't touch the ball once in those 2 games. That's the first time in his career. And I'm sitting there going like, is there something up? And then Buffalo had a wide open pass he dropped. But then again, everyone said there's nothing wrong with him. Everything takes time. And to see him get his first touchdown of the season, and he has always been our big playmaker. To see a guy especially coming, and again, this is what we have to be realistic about. Guys are not going to come off injuries 100%. That notion that you come back week and you're ready 100% week 1 is total BS. You got to think about it from a mental and physical standpoint. But to see him get his 41st touchdown of his career, he ties Todd Heap, which I believe he will break that record. That just speaks to that not only you have to be encouraged is what I want to use. That now he's starting to pick it up a little bit. Now this offense has gotten better. Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Rashard Bateman, even throw Charlie Kohler in there. Like, they've picked up the slack and they've done their jobs, and they're going to continue to they're going to get fed, but everything is starting to peak at the right time. Now, defensively, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna be fair. Defensively, I'm a bit disappointed in how we looked. We gave up 23 points. Outside of a couple sacks, I mean, the receivers, I can't defend that. I mean, Jaden Daniels was 24-35, 269 and 2 touchdowns. And Terry McLaurin had 2 of those touchdowns. I mean, it wasn't great. I mean, I give the corners, in fairness, I give them a B minus, but there was no other wide receiver that had a big game. My concern was, especially on that first touchdown, Terry got behind Marcus Williams. That can't happen. And then I'm looking at, Nate Wiggins. He gives up, it's a 4th down play. He's guarding Nolan Brown. This man is skipping with his hands behind his back up the field like he just got the biggest stop of his career, and he's flagged for pass interference. What are you doing? And again, and also too, I also have to say this too. When it mattered, the defense made plays. The only ways I say it's a negative because of the penalties, and they were at bad times. But we kind of made Wash to one-dimensional. Now, in fairness, Brian Robinson was not there, and that made a difference. Austin Eckler has always been a pass-catching receiver. Jeremy McNichols, who's the third running back, he really wasn't involved. They kind of went stale offensively. But to go back to my positives, the run defense for Baltimore was actually spectacular. I mean, we're allowing just about almost close to 60 yards rushing and under three yards a carry. That to Washington only ran the ball 18 times for 52 yards.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
He didn't even try.
So, that's why that clip's funny. But again, Brian Robinson was not there. But again, I think that you're seeing just Nnamdi, Madubuike, Travis Jones, Adafe Owe. I mean, they're starting to really pick it up. Like Travis Jones, big defensive lineman out of Connecticut. I mean, the way as a run stopper. Now he's not like Sam Adams or Tony Saragusa, may you rest in peace. But I'm talking about his presence is making a big difference. He's in the middle, especially when you blow up a running play, fighting off a block, wrap up the ball carrier. He did record a sack in the game, but it's just to see, like, they ran on first down 10 times. 4 of them were for known gain. The longest was 9 yards, and that was with Jaden. The other 9 were a combined 23 yards. To keep, and also too, and that's why I was so frustrated when you hear Tony Romo and bragging about, going for it on fourth down. Well, you shouldn't have had to have gone for it on fourth down if you didn't get stopped the first 2 downs. And that kept them in longer third down situations and put more, I think, on the offense to figure something out. They came into the game, what was it, 50, almost close to 52% best completion percentage on third down. They're 4 of 12. And again, I have to give Zach Orr this is something to build off of, because especially the way, if we force him to be one-dimensional, and I think also too, you look at the struggles with your secondary and new defensive coordinator. There's a lot you can take from this and build on. So I will give Zach Orr in the defense credit, but you really have to be proud of what you see. And I'll give this also too. They definitely it was a clean game for Baltimore. 3 penalties for 33 yards while drawing 6. Now, some of those penalties were extremely questionable. Example, the penalty on St. Juice with Rashard Bateman. Rashard slipped. The one with Dante Fowler Jr. He pulls Lamar's jersey. That kind of in the book is classified as a hip drop tackle. They took that away. I questioned the last play where it's a 3rd and 3, fourth quarter. At this point, they blow all their timeouts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Obviously, they stacked the box for Derek. It's a handoff fake. Lamar runs to his left. Jeremy Chin meets him. Wham. Out of the sideline. Flag. That to me. But yes. But when you look at everything, this was probably a football game where I could say, you guys did a lot. Everything looked clean. You made the right plays. You did all the little things right. Now, I'm concerned how that'll look against Tampa. But what I can say is, when you've been one of the most penalized teams in the league and there's several games where you finished in double digits and more than 100 yards in penalties, which is a real big problem.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
He didn't even try.
So I really, really, kind of, and again, the officiating this season has been very suspect. I'm all for, again, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I'm all for consistency. They're going to call something on one end, call it, but be consistent, because there's certain teams that you go up against, you have to play damn near perfect. And I think that really, really shows. Now, when you look at the stat sheet, that won't reflect in the stat sheet. But when you look at an offense that had long, sustainable drives and held their defense in check, and especially they kept, was it close to 35 minutes on the field? That says a lot about the offense. But for Baltimore, listen, it was a great win. Now, let's talk about Washington for a minute. Now, first and foremost, let me say this. JD5, I'm look right here in this camera. JD5 will be an MVP in this league for years to come. He's going to be a great player. Washington has a franchise quarterback. Sunday should not take away anything that he's done so far in the season. He's earned my respect. He's always had my respect. But I hope that this game, respectfully, kind of pumped the brakes. I mean, some of the things that were said on national TV. I mean, even after I'll even go, and it's not even on TV. I'll go to Twitter after beating Cincinnati. When you see things where he's better than Lamar, after, first and foremost, you beat a Cincinnati Bengal team that you didn't contain. You didn't stop. You let them score 35 points. I mean, don't get me wrong, he made plays, but all I'm saying is that there's still room for improvement. There's a lot of growth from him, from everybody. Let's also let's look at it from this perspective. I think that when you look at Washington, Cliff Kingsbury, again, I think they are a run-first team, in my opinion. But again, without Brian Robinson, I don't know what that'll look like. Now, I think he kind of went more to the pass. In this game, they threw the ball 35 times compared to 18. Couple of running plays were Jaden. Now, most of those passes were great, but they were smart, whether it was short routes, flat passes. Again, I think that a lot of it was your defense. Your defense did not get timely stops, and it did not make – I mean, they had the one turnover that was in Mark Andrews' hands. Outside of that, secondary was disappointing. And if I'm being honest, and shout out to Will Kramer and Sean Spencer on Watch Football Weekly, like, I don't know, maybe a trade, because Emmanuel Force is a healthy scratch. So I kind of question, I mean, if he doesn't play against Carolina next week, then I know something's up. That's just my opinion. But to watch Zay Flowers, 9 receptions, 132 yards, all coming in the first half. And I mean, Washington's secondary has been suspect. We know this. But especially going into the offseason, that's why I argued, I think we look back at that draft, you could take your pick between Emmanuel Forbes or Christian Gonzalez. I still think Gonzalez would have been a better fit, but again, we don't live in the worlds of what ifs, because they're both kind of ended up in situations I don't think neither of them expected. But I think that if I'm Washington, free agency, maybe a trade, something, because this group of corners, respectfully, they are going to give Washington's defense nightmares if you cannot stop opposing receivers, and especially imagine if they went away from if Baltimore went away from the run game. Imagine that. And also too, hey, the rushing defense did not do a great job. Jonathan Allen, may he get well soon. He was out. Armstrong went out. They allowed 37 carries for 176 yards. Some of that was Derrick Henry. I mean, in the first half, they did a great job, but second half, that's where I really noticed all the adjustments. So, I mean, I think that's an area where I think it needs room for improvement. But, for the most part, that's what I saw. You just gotta take the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like I said, if you kind of made adjustments to the run, 52 yards and 18 carries. I don't know what that looked like in the second half. There were some mistakes offensively. I do kind of question. He had burnt the timeout in the third quarter, if I remember correctly. He had 2 timeouts. So my biggest, this is not at Dan Quinn, but this is my biggest issue with coaches. The 2-minute warning is essentially a timeout. Okay. For me, I would have let the clock run out instead of burning both timeouts the way that they did. That's just my opinion. Because I think they could have got a chance if you had a timeout to save. But again, that's neither here nor there. Tressway, he punted the ball three times in the game. Outside allowing the 2 the 90+ yard drives. I mean, offensively, failing to score a touchdown on the opening drive that went to the Baltimore's 13-yard line. Little things like that. Austin Siebert getting blocked. And that to me right there, that was I think the deciding point of the game when he missed that field goal. But listen, again, Washington will be fine. Actually, let me go back. To punt in the third quarter, that also too, I question that. It's a 4th and 6 on Baltimore's 44. Yes. Now, again, logically, you pin them in their own end zone. Now, because he punted, it was at the 6-yard line. So, yeah, I meant that. That's what's up. That 94-yard, 8-play drive, 94 yards on 8 plays to make it go up 27-13. So, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Before we wrap it up, I did want to say for the Washington Commanders, this was not a bad loss. this was I wouldn't even really say. I mean, I think it was a battle test. I mean, Washington does have the ninth easiest schedule. Now, for me, a loss is a loss. Washington, so far to me, has exceeded a lot of expectations. I will say that, if they came in, they were kind of playing with fool's gold. I don't believe pressure got to them. Like I said, Jaden is going to be an MVP in this league soon. I feel like Washington, their time is coming. When they do, it's going to be something to watch. I just think having winning football in Washington and Baltimore, that's great. I gotta say this. I'm sorry. To compare Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams to Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning is extremely disingenuous. Stephen A. Smith, okay, that was a horrible comparison. So yes. Then lastly on Baltimore side, you start off 0-2, and especially the Kansas City loss I can understand, but when you lose to Gardner Minshew and the Las Vegas Raiders, one could argue you should be 5-1. 4 straight wins. Pittsburgh, is up there with us, but outside of the secondary that looks suspect, Lamar Jackson is making a case to be winning his third MVP. So offense looking good over the last 2 weeks. Like to me, 6 weeks in, I like what I see. Now you've got Tampa and you got Cleveland. I'm not looking forward to that. That should be interesting. And then Washington got Carolina. I think that should be a win for them. And then they also have the Bears. Those are 2 interesting games I'm looking forward to. There's a lot of, again, football is a week by week cases with in the NFL. So yeah, something definitely to be proud of. But it was a good game overall. And Sean Spencer, Will Kramer, the Serengeti. I'm just kidding. No, in all seriousness, it's all love. It was a great game. I did not go because I was not paying $500-$600 for one ticket. No, that's ridiculous. And also before I get into one final thought, there was a fan, and I'm glad that this person was found. I'm all for when you go to a game, you're having a good time with friends, you even chopping it up with the fans next to you. I'm all for that. But when you're assaulting, throwing beer, and in this case, this guy, he beat up 2 fans that were fans of the Commanders. He got fired from his job. He was a lawyer, for what I read. And that type of stuff, that's not cool. So I hope those 2 fans are okay. It sucks that you can't go out and have a good time without someone being an asshole or trying to spoil a good time. So other than that, let me get off on that. I'm going to take a little break where we're going to come back. We're going to come back with one final thought. Definitely want to get into this.
Chilling all day, all in your space is where I wanna be. Here in this room.
Thoughts are running through my mind. Someone took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
Jerry, 1970, a little different from this past off season in building the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add and don't spend, and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the off season.
Oh, I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is by the Cowboys. It was an idiot that did that. So idiot things can turn into good decisions. Okay? Smart things can turn into bad decisions. The facts are that when you make one, you don't really know whether it's going to be good or not at the time. So let's just go ahead. I'm trying to answer your questions, man. You want some conversation this morning? You're getting it.
Jerry Jones here on The Fan. Jerry, are you worried about fan apathy setting in? Of Jerry Jones getting a little worked up over talking about the state of his football team with us.
We can go into this. I'm saying what I'm saying. Don't tell me what I'm saying.
Okay.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Jerry, why are you getting so mad at us? We're just asking you why the blowouts are happening, the historical differences at home. We're just asking about it on behalf of the fans, and you're getting real ticked off and mad at us. We're just
Hey, can I tell you something, guys? I don't get mad at people that I can not be with if I don't want to be with. I don't get mad. You're asking me for a response, and I'm giving you a response. We got to play better, and we got to play better at specific points. No, there's no looking for stepping out here and bringing in 20 new players between now and the bye. That's not the way it works.
So things were kind of calm, except for the reaction, like on all the shows and everything, and all the awesome messages from Tolos. Nothing from the Cowboys, nothing from the bosses. And then last night, in case you missed it, Jerry Jones tells Diana Rossini after the owners' meetings that I don't need to be grilled by those guys. I'll take it from real fans or real football people, I may have had a different answer. And I don't need to be getting that from the flagship station. And that really threw us all for a loop. Here's my theory on that. It's just a theory. I don't know. My theory is that Jerry Jones talked to us before getting on his private plane. He landed. He was 1 minute before, 1 minute early to the owners' meetings. He went inside the meetings.
You're on time. You're late.
They last all day long. Cowboy reporters would kill for that timing from McCarthy's pressers. He goes into the meeting. He's in there with the other owners. And by the way, Jerry took that little shot at us as well, saying, you guys think you're so smart. You know, you're not one of the owners. You need to be coming to this meeting. You be one of the football.
I mean, he invited us. I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, I'll go. I'll talk to 31 other people.
So all hell breaks loose, and Jerry gets absolutely annihilated and criticized from the entire world. He walks out.
I'm muted. I'm so sorry. You guys obviously heard that. I've heard everybody's side to it and all those other things. First and foremost, Mr. Jones, respectfully speaking, part of a journalist's job is to ask you the tough questions. Whether you are an owner or a GM, respectfully, Jerry, you're in front of those cameras no matter if you guys win or lose. Somebody has to take accountability for how the team is constructed. Question: why are you struggling? Now, everyone has been critical on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he basically, and I agree with Shannon Sharp in this, he basically was threatening to fire you guys, especially with questions that don't pertain to him not taking accountability. Part of the media's job is asking tough questions. It's not saying about all the nice stuff all the time. For example, I use the Ravens. We criticize John Harbaugh all the damn time because in the 17 years there seems to just be this post the Super Bowl championship. He just seems to be content with how things are. Like, I don't know why he would do that. I mean, I know why he would do it because he knows his team's not doing well. I picked them not to make the playoffs this year. They're not built to win anything. And I'm gonna say this for the record. He brought back Ezekiel Elliott. You have Zeke, Rico Dinwiddie, Deuce Vaughn. If you can't figure out how to use those three guys in your offense, that's on coaching. Brian Schottenheimer. You have Mike Zimmer, defensive coordinator. And in fairness, they don't have DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons isn't there. But also, too, this is also fair to say, it's not just people on TV, Jerry, fans too. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Cowboy fan. Because it's really sad to know that somebody can't take accountability in saying, you know what, I'm wrong, that I have to take accountability in for putting this team together. And I'm being honest, Derrick Henry possibly could have fixed some of these problems or could have covered some of these problems. But I just think that was just ingenuous to go off on Shan, RJ, and Bobby. Like that should not have happened. Now, I sometimes will listen to them on YouTube from time to time, but I just thought when you heard that, I'm like, wait a minute. He doesn't, I read an article, he doesn't pay their salaries. He doesn't. That's just intimidating. Me personally, like, really? So I just, like, I have to now tiptoe around somebody because they can't take criticism of how their team that they built looks. That's my one final thought. I just thought it was really interesting to talk about, because I'm just sitting there like, and I heard all sides. I get both sides, but part of the job as a journalist, you're going to ask. There are going to be questions. I would say some reporters ask some weird questions that don't make sense, that are bad questions that are not prevalent. Like, example, when there's a reporter that brought up firing Mike McCarthy. Wasn't the right time to ask that. Jerry, well, why is your team struggling? That's a fair question to ask. Well, Jerry, do you plan on making improvements? Do you think a trade? Do you think this will help? Those are fair questions. But if you can't take criticism from people on radio or newspaper, now imagine what your teams would look like if they don't make the playoffs. I'm out of here. Peace. Stay up. Before I forget, please like, comment, and subscribe. Maryland football, that's the only other video you'll get. That's episode 401. Working on a couple other interview process requests on the podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good night.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything